Captain Minu stood in front of the registration desk at Bellows Prime Station, waiting for the alien clerk to finish processing his papers. The station was massive, full of creatures from 100 different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of living crystal. Minu had been traveling through space for 3 months now, and he still wasn't used to the variety. The clerk, a being with 6 arms and purple skin, looked up from his screen. His name badge said, though Minu had no idea how to pronounce it properly. The alien's large eyes blinked slowly as he read something on his display. "So," said, his voice coming through a translator device, "your species is called human." "Yes, that's correct," Minu replied. He had answered this question a dozen times already at different stations. "And you come from a planet called Earth." "That's right." Tapped something on his screen, then he stopped. His eyes grew wider. All 6 of his arms froze in midair. He read something again, then looked at Minu with an expression that might have been shock. "Is something wrong?" Minu asked. "Your planet," started, then paused. "According to the threat assessment matrix, your species has no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor plating, no telepathic attacks, no bioelectric defenses." He looked Minu up and down. "Is this information correct?" Minu thought about it. Humans didn't have any of those things. "Well, yes, we don't have built-in weapons like some species do." The alien stared at him for a long moment. Then, to Minu's surprise, began to laugh. It was a strange, clicking sound that made other aliens nearby turn to look. "You're serious," the clerk said between laughs. "Your entire species evolved with no defensive capabilities at all." "We have hands," Minu said, feeling defensive. "We're intelligent, we build things." Of course," said, still chuckling. He tapped more buttons on his screen. "But the TAM doesn't care about that. It measures biological threats, natural weapons. Your species is classified as," he read from the screen, "Class 9 unarmed, 0 offensive capability." Minu felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "What does that mean?" "It means your species is defenseless," explained. "According to galactic law, any planet with a Class 9 classification is considered an open salvage zone. Anyone can harvest resources from such worlds. It's not even considered an act of war." The cold sensation grew worse. "But we're not defenseless. We have ships, weapons, defense systems." "Those don't count," the clerk interrupted. "The TAM only measures what you're born with, what nature gave you." He shrugged with 4 of his 6 arms. "I'm sorry, but that's how the system works. It's been running for 10,000 years. The algorithms are very precise." Minu leaned forward. "So you're telling me that because humans don't have claws or poison, the entire galaxy thinks we're easy targets?" "Not thinks," corrected. "Knows. The TAM is never wrong." He finished the registration and handed Minu a data chip. "Your papers are processed, but if I were you, I'd tell your people to prepare. Once this classification spreads through the networks, every pirate, scavenger, and opportunistic warlord in 17 sectors will see Earth as a priority target." Minu grabbed the chip with shaking hands. "How long do we have?" "The data updates spread fast," the alien said. "I'd say a few hours before the first fleets start moving, maybe a day if you're lucky." He paused, then added quietly, "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You seem like a decent being. It's a shame your species evolved so poorly." Minu didn't wait to hear more. He ran back to his ship, the Infinite Dawn, and immediately opened a communication channel to Earth. It took several minutes to establish the connection across the vast distance. When the screen finally lit up, he saw the face of Doctor, Earth's chief. "Minu," she said, looking concerned. "You look terrible. What happened?" "We have a problem," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "A big problem." He explained everything the clerk had told him. As he spoke, he watched the expression change from confusion to disbelief to horror. "They think we're defenseless," she said when he finished. "But we have the Earth Defense Fleet. We have orbital weapons platforms, we have. None of that matters to their system, Minyu interrupted. The threat assessment matrix only looks at biology. Since we don't have natural weapons, it labeled us as Class 9 unarmed. According to galactic law, that makes Earth an open salvage zone. Was quiet for a moment, her mind clearly racing. How long do we have? Hours, maybe a day. I need to contact the Defense Fleet immediately, she said, and the President, and the UN Council. She looked back at the screen. Minyu, how many ships are we talking about? I don't know, he admitted. But the clerk said every pirate and warlord in 17 sectors would see us as a target. That could be dozens of fleets, maybe more. Closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with determination. Get back here as fast as you can. We're going to need everyone. I'm already setting course, Minyu said. My ship can make it in 6 days if I push the engines. Do it, ordered. And Minyu, thank you for the warning. You might have just saved billions of lives. The screen went dark. Minyu immediately began programming the fastest route home. His fingers moved automatically while his mind struggled to process what was happening. Humanity had spent centuries dreaming of meeting alien civilizations. They had imagined peaceful exchanges, sharing of knowledge, diplomatic relations. No one had imagined this. No one had thought that Earth would be labeled as prey simply because humans didn't have claws. As the infinite dawn jumped into faster-than-light travel, Minyu wondered if they would make it home before the attacks began. He wondered if Earth's defenses would be enough against enemies who thought humans were helpless. Most of all, he wondered if the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity. They might not have evolved with weapons, but that didn't mean they were unarmed. It just meant they had built their weapons instead. The ship hummed around him as it traveled through the dark space between stars. Somewhere behind him, data packets were spreading through alien networks, marking Earth's location and classification. Somewhere ahead, his home world was preparing for war. Minyu gripped the controls tightly and pushed the engines even harder. He had delivered the warning. Now it was up to Earth to show the galaxy that humans were anything but defenseless. Commander Park stared at the radar screen from his station on Aegis 7, Earth's largest orbital defense platform. 3 separate fleets had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. The computer counted over 100 ships total, all of them moving toward Earth with clear hostile intent. Sir, Lieutenant said from the communications station, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the largest fleet. Put it through, ordered. The main screen flickered and showed a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bear. It wore armor covered in spikes and had multiple scars across its face. When it spoke, the translator made its voice sound deep and threatening. Attention, primitive species of Earth, the creature said. I am Warlord. You have been classified as Class 9 unarmed by the threat assessment matrix. This means your planet and all its resources now belong to whoever claims them first. Surrender immediately and hand over all biological specimens for processing. If you resist, we will take what we want by force. However, resistance from an unarmed species is futile. You have 1 hour to respond. The screen went dark. The bridge of Aegis 7 was silent, looked around at his crew. Some looked scared, others looked angry, a few looked confused. They think we're going to fight them with our bare hands, said quietly. They don't understand about weapons. Nodded slowly. Doctor had briefed him on what Captain Minyu had discovered. The alien assessment system only counted natural biological weapons. It didn't understand that humans made their weapons. Open a channel, said. Let's try to clear up this misunderstanding. Worked the controls and soon the screen showed again, looking impatient. We received your message, said calmly. But I think there's been a mistake. We're not defenseless. We have weapons, ships, and defense systems. If you attack us, we will defend ourselves. Laughed, showing rows of sharp teeth. You have no claws, no venom, no armor. Your bodies are weak and soft. What could you possibly do to my fleet? We strongly suggest you reconsider, replied. We don't want to fight, but we will protect our home. Your fear is clear in your voice, the warlord said. 1 hour, surrender or die. The transmission ended, took a deep breath and turned to his weapons officer. Lieutenant, status of all defense systems. Checked her screens. All orbital are online. Missile batteries are armed and ready. Nuclear torpedo tubes are loaded. Point defense systems are active. Long-range drones are deployed, sir. We're as ready as we can be. Good, said, because I don't think they're going to listen to reason. He was right. 58 minutes later, his fleet crossed the orbital defense perimeter and opened fire. Energy beams and missile swarms headed toward Earth satellites and defense platforms. Return fire, ordered calmly. All weapons free, target the command ships first. What happened next would be recorded in both human and alien history books for centuries to come. The fired first. Tungsten rods the size of telephone poles accelerated to incredible speeds, moving so fast they were invisible to the naked eye. When they hit the alien ships, they punched straight through shields and armor like paper. 3 ships exploded in the first 10 seconds. The missile swarms came next. Each missile had its own artificial intelligence, allowing them to dodge enemy fire and coordinate attacks. They overwhelmed the alien point defense systems by attacking from multiple angles at once. Explosions bloomed across the enemy formation. Then the nuclear torpedoes reached their targets. The aliens had shields designed to stop energy weapons and solid projectiles, but they weren't ready for nuclear explosions. The electromagnetic pulses disrupted their systems. The radiation burned through their hulls. Ships went dark and began to drift. On the bridge of Aegis 7, the crew watched in amazement as the enemy fleet fell apart. Kept his voice steady as he gave orders, but inside he was shocked by how effective their weapons were. The aliens had expected weak prey. Instead, they had found something they didn't understand. Sir, called out, the enemy is trying to retreat. Watched as the surviving alien ships turned and tried to flee. His flagship was damaged, venting atmosphere and moving slowly. The warlord's face appeared on screen again, but this time he looked terrified. This is impossible, he shouted. The TAM said you were unarmed. You have no biological weapons. We don't, agreed. We have technological weapons. We build them. Every species doesn't come with claws built in. The look of horror on his face would have been funny in any other situation. You build weapons, separate from your bodies. Of course, Sid. How else would we fight? This is unnatural, the warlord screamed. The TAM must be informed. The classification is wrong. His ship exploded before he could say anything else. The battle lasted 47 minutes total. Of the 100+ ships that had attacked Earth, only 9 escaped. They jumped to faster-than-light speed as quickly as they could, broadcasting emergency messages about the classification error. On Aegis 7, allowed himself to relax slightly. His hands were shaking now that the adrenaline was wearing off. Around him, his crew was cheering and hugging each other. Sir, said, walking over to his command chair, I've been thinking about what that warlord said, about biological weapons versus technological weapons. What about it? Most alien species are born with their weapons, explained. They have claws or venom or telepathic powers. That's what their assessment system looks for. But humans aren't born with weapons. We make them. The system literally couldn't understand that concept. Felt the full weight of the situation settle on him. So they looked at humanity and saw defenseless prey animals. Exactly, said. They have no concept of a species that manufactures weapons separate from their bodies. To them, it's like we're using magic. Immediately opened a channel to Doctor at the United Nations headquarters. When her face appeared on screen, he could see the relief in her eyes. Commander, she said, I saw the battle footage, incredible work. Thank you, replied. But doctor, we need to talk about the bigger problem. Those ships that escaped are going to report what happened here, but I don't think the aliens will believe them. Nodded grimly. I was afraid of that. If their computer system has been running for 10,000 years without encountering a species like us, it won't change its classification based on a few battle reports. It will need multiple sources. How many sources? Asked. At least 3, according to the information Captain Minu gathered. So more fleets will come, said. They'll see the classification, think it's accurate, and attack us just like did. Yes, confirmed. Until the threat assessment matrix officially updates Earth's classification, we're going to be seen as an easy target throughout the galaxy. Every pirate, scavenger, and warlord will think they can claim our planet. Looked at the debris field on his screen. The remains of alien ships floated in Earth's orbit, silent testimony to the galaxy's mistake. Then we'd better prepare, he said, because this was just the first wave. 2 weeks after the first attack, the classification remained unchanged. The threat assessment matrix had received reports from the surviving pirate ships, but the system labeled them as fraudulent. According to the TAM's ancient logic, an unarmed species couldn't possibly defeat a military fleet. The survivors were marked as scammers trying to claim salvage rights by lying about the battle. On Mars Colony, Defense Coordinator watched her screens with growing concern. A new fleet had just appeared near Jupiter. This one was different from the pirates. These ships were clean, corporate marked, and moved in precise formations. What are we looking at? Asked her assistant, a young officer named. Consortium, said, reading the identification codes. They're a resource extraction company, one of the biggest in the galaxy. She pulled up more data. 24 harvester ships, 40 escort vessels, and hundreds of automated drones. They're here to strip mine Earth, said, his voice hollow. That's exactly what they're here for, confirmed. She opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Mars Defense Grid to Earth Command. We have incoming corporate forces. They're deploying harvester drones. On the main screen, she watched as the ships released thousands of small automated machines. The drones spread out in a cloud, heading for Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. They were designed to extract resources from planets whose inhabitants couldn't fight back. The fleet commander's face appeared on the communication screen. He was a tall, thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes. His expression was bored, like this was just another routine job. Attention Earth System, the alien said. I am administrator of the consortium. Under galactic salvage law, we are claiming all resources in this system. Our harvester drones will begin extraction immediately. Do not interfere with our equipment. This is a legal operation approved by the Galactic Concordance. Muted the channel and turned to legal operation. They actually think they have the legal right to harvest our planets. What do we do? Asked. We show them what happens when you try to steal from humans, said. She activated the Outer System Defense Network. What the consortium didn't know was that humanity had spent the last 50 years militarizing their entire solar system. Every asteroid base was a fortress. Every orbital factory could produce weapons. Every moon station had defense systems. After centuries of science fiction stories about alien invasions, humans had prepared. The automated drones reached the outer defense perimeter. Immediately, hidden weapons platforms activated. Laser grids created deadly webs of energy. Missile pods released swarms of hunter-killers. Rail guns fired in calculated patterns. The harvester drones, designed for mining weak civilizations, were destroyed by the thousands. On his command ship, Administrator watched in shock as his entire drone fleet was eliminated in less than 5 minutes. This is impossible, he muttered. They're Class 9. They have no weapons. Sir, one of his officers said nervously, maybe we should retreat. Retreat, said angrily. Do you know how much those drones cost? No, we use the escort fleet. Deploy attack formation. The 40 escort ships moved forward. They were military-grade vessels, equipped with shields and weapons. Was confident they could handle whatever primitive defenses Earth had. He was wrong. Coordinated the defense from Mars. She had access to weapons systems scattered across the entire solar system, on asteroid bases, missile platforms hiding on moons, laser satellites orbiting every planet. She didn't control just one defense station. She controlled an entire network of interconnected weapons. Target the escort ships, she ordered. Fire Solution Delta 9. From 6 different locations, weapons fired simultaneously. The escort ships were hit from multiple angles at once. Their shields held for a few seconds, then collapsed under the coordinated assault. Ships exploded or went dark, systems overloaded. Retreat, screamed. All ships retreat immediately. What was left of the fleet jumped away to safety. Out of 64 ships, only 12 escaped. Immediately sent an emergency message to the TAM Central System. This is Administrator of the Consortium, he said, his voice shaking. I am submitting an official correction to species classification Earth Human. The current designation is wrong. They are not unarmed. They possess extensive military capabilities. I am attaching combat footage as evidence. This classification must be changed immediately. The TAM received the message and processed it. This was the second report claiming the classification was wrong. According to protocol, the system needed 3 independent sources before making changes. The response was automatic. Insufficient verification, the TAM replied. 2 sources required for reclassification review. Current designation remains unchanged. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Concordance Council chambers, the reports were causing chaos. Most council members refused to believe that an unarmed species could defeat multiple fleets. They accused the survivors of lying or incompetence. But one council member was different. Counselor of the Confederation had reviewed all the combat footage carefully. She was a small, bird-like alien known for her analytical mind. Now she stood before the council, trying to make them understand. You're not listening, she said, her feathers ruffling with frustration. These humans aren't fighting with their bodies. They're fighting with technology. Technology doesn't count, another counselor argued. The TAM measures biological threats. It's been accurate for 10,000 years. That's exactly the problem, insisted. The TAM was programmed to identify species based on what evolution gave them. Claws, venom, telepathy, armor. But humans didn't evolve weapons. They invented them. They manufacture them. Every battle they've won has used different technology because they adapt their weapons to each situation. That's ridiculous, a third counselor said. A species can't just make weapons from nothing. They don't make them from nothing, explained, pulling up images of human weapons. They use physics, chemistry, engineering. Look at this weapon called a. It uses electromagnetic force to accelerate metal projectiles. This one is called a nuclear missile. It triggers atomic fusion to create explosions. These aren't biological abilities. They're tools. If they're so dangerous, why does the TAM classify them as harmless? The first counselor demanded. Because the TAM doesn't understand the concept of manufactured weapons, said. Most species in the galaxy use their biological abilities to fight. Some species build technology too, but it's always based on their natural abilities. Telepathic species build telepathic amplifiers. Species with bioelectric powers build energy weapons, but humans have no natural weapons at all. So they built everything from scratch using pure engineering. The council chamber was silent as the members considered this. Finally, one of the elder counselors spoke. If what you say is true, counselor, then these humans are unlike any species we've encountered. They're not warriors by nature. They're problem solvers who treat warfare as an engineering challenge. Exactly, said. And that makes them more dangerous than any warrior species, because they don't rely on evolution to give them advantages. They create their own advantages. They adapt faster than any species in the galaxy. Then we need to change the classification immediately, another counselor said. We can't, the elder counselor replied sadly. The TAM requires 3 independent verifications. We only have 2. Until a third fleet attacks Earth and reports the same results, the system will maintain the current classification. Felt cold dread settle in her stomach. Then you're sending another fleet to their deaths. The humans will defend themselves. They'll have to. Perhaps, the elder said, but protocol is protocol. The TAM has been reliable for 10,000 years. We cannot change it based on 2 reports, no matter how convincing. Returned to her office and immediately tried to contact Earth directly. She had to warn them that another attack was coming. The system's logic was flawed, but it would take one more tragedy before anyone would listen. She just hoped Earth would survive long enough for that warning to matter. The threat assessment matrix made its final calculation. 2 military forces had failed to harvest Earth. According to the TAM's programming, this meant there was a system error that needed correction. The logical solution was simple: send overwhelming force to eliminate the anomaly. The TAM searched its database for the nearest major military power and found the Armada. They were a warrior species that had conquered 40 star systems. They had evolved for combat, with armored skin, enhanced strength, and the ability to regenerate from wounds. They were exactly the kind of species the TAM was designed to identify. The system automatically issued a threat elimination directive to the command. War Prime received the order while his fleet was between campaigns. He read the directive with amusement. An unarmed species is causing problems, he said to his officers. The TAM wants us to eliminate a Class 9 threat, he laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. This will be quick. How many ships should we send? The directive recommends overwhelming force, his tactical officer replied. 300 warships. 300, laughed again. For an unarmed species, that's overkill, but fine, we'll make it an easy victory for the warriors. They need practice anyway. He stood up, his armored body reflecting the lights. Set course for Earth. We'll end this in one battle. The Armada jumped to Earth's solar system 3 weeks after the attack. 300 warships appeared at once, the largest force humanity had ever faced. On Earth, alarms rang out across every defense station, every military base, every government building. Admiral Song sat in Earth Defense Command, watching the screens with a calm expression that didn't match the fear in her stomach. Around the table were the other leaders: Doctor from Diplomacy, Commander Park from Orbital Defense, Captain Minu, who had returned from his journey, and the head of Earth's Weapons Research Division. 300 ships, said quietly. That's 3 times what we faced before. They're not just numerous, added, pointing at the tactical display. These are warships. They're designed for conquest. Heavy armor, regenerating shields, and they carry thousands of warriors bred for combat. Can we win? Asked directly. Everyone turned to Admiral. She was silent for a long moment, studying the data. Then she looked at, what about the Sentinel protocol? The room went cold. Face went pale. Admiral, that weapons system was deemed too dangerous. We agreed never to use it unless we faced extinction, finished. 300 warships of a warrior species that conquered 40 systems. I'd say this qualifies. She looked around the table. The Sentinel protocol was designed for exactly this scenario, an overwhelming force that conventional weapons might not stop. Spoke up, what exactly is the Sentinel protocol? Swallowed hard before answering. It's a collection of weapons systems we developed but hoped never to use. Autonomous hunter-killer drones with quantum processors that can predict enemy movements. Self-replicating mine fields that spread like viruses. Antimatter warheads. And the main component, the Helios Array. What's the Helios Array? Minu asked. A network of satellites that can focus energy from the sun itself, explained. Essentially, we can turn our star into a weapon. It's devastating, precise, and absolutely terrifying. They classified us as unarmed, Minu said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. They came here thinking we're helpless prey animals. Maybe it's time we show them what armed really means. Admiral made her decision. Activate the Sentinel Protocol. Authorization code Omega-7 Alpha. This is not a drill. Across the solar system, weapons systems that had been dormant for years came online. Deep in the asteroid belt, factories began producing autonomous drones. Near the sun, the Helios Array satellites adjusted their positions. On Earth's moon, silos opened to reveal missiles tipped with antimatter. Warprime watched Earth through his command screens. The planet looked peaceful, blue and green and beautiful. He opened a communication channel. "Attention Earth," he said. "I am Warprime of the Armada. You have been classified as a threat anomaly. Under galactic law, we are authorized to eliminate your species and claim your planet. You may surrender now and we will make your deaths quick." Admiral appeared on his screen. Was surprised to see she looked calm, even slightly bored. "Warprime," she said, "you are making a mistake. We don't want to fight you, but if you attack, we will defend ourselves with every weapon we have." "You have no weapons," replied. "The TAM says you are unarmed. You have no claws, no venom, no armor, no biological weapons at all." "That's correct," agreed. "We don't have biological weapons, we have something else." "There is nothing else," said. "The TAM has measured 10,000 species across the galaxy. It is never wrong." "Then today will be a first," said, and cut the transmission. Was annoyed but not concerned. He ordered the attack. 300 warships advanced on Earth, weapons charging, shields at maximum. They expected to find a defenseless planet, easy prey for warriors. They were wrong. The autonomous hunter-killer drones attacked first. They appeared from nowhere, thousands of small ships with quantum computers that could predict enemy actions. They moved in swarms, dodging enemy fire with impossible precision. Each drone carried weapons designed to penetrate armor. The self-replicating mines came next. They looked like ordinary space debris until they got close to enemy ships. Then they exploded, each one releasing 10 more mines. They found themselves in a field of constantly multiplying explosives. The antimatter missiles followed. When they hit shields, matter and antimatter annihilated each other in flashes of pure energy. Entire ships vanished in explosions that registered on sensors across the solar system. Warprime watched in horror as his fleet took massive damage. "This is impossible," he shouted. "They're unarmed," the TAM said. "The TAM was wrong," his tactical officer said, voice shaking. "Sir, we're losing ships too fast. We need to retreat." "Do not retreat," roared. "All ships full assault, break through to the planet." 50 ships broke formation and charged directly at Earth. They made it past the drones and mines, shields failing but armor holding. For a moment, it looked like they might reach orbital range. Then the Helios Array fired. Beams of concentrated solar energy, hot enough to vaporize metal, lanced out from near the sun. They moved at the speed of light, hitting their targets before they could react. Ships didn't just explode. They ceased to exist, turned into expanding clouds of plasma. Watched his flagship's shields fail. He saw the energy beam coming, bright as a star. His last thought was confusion. How could an unarmed species do this? The beam hit his ship and the Warprime died, without understanding his mistake. The battle lasted 3 hours. It was brutal and terrifying. They fought with courage and skill, but courage and skill weren't enough against weapons that had been designed by beings who didn't evolve for war. They engineered for it. When it was over, 72 ships escaped. 228 were destroyed. Earth's losses were relatively light, some drones, some satellites, one orbital station. In Earth Defense Command, Admiral watched the last enemy ships jump away. She felt tired and sad. So many lives lost because of a computer's mistake. Admiral, Commander said quietly, the TAM just updated. She looked at the screen. After 3 reports, the system had finally changed Earth's classification, but she felt no victory, only exhaustion. How many had to die, she wondered aloud, before the system noticed its mistake? The message appeared simultaneously on 10,000 worlds. Every government, every military command, every trading post, and every space station received the same update from the Threat Assessment Matrix. Emergency Classification Update. Species Human Earth. Previous classification, Class 9 Unarmed RESCINDD. New classification, Class 1 Extreme Threat. Category, Tool Building Apex Predator. The update continued with details that made military commanders across the galaxy read twice to make sure they understood correctly. Species Analysis. Possesses no biological weapons. Compensates through technological innovation at unprecedented rates. Entire civilization structured around problem-solving and adaptation. Wars are fought not through evolution but through invention. Combat technology improves with each engagement. Defeated 3 separate military forces using different weapon systems each time. RECOMMENDTONS. Establish diplomatic contact immediately. Avoid military engagement under all circumstances. Species shows preference for peaceful interaction, but responds to threats with overwhelming force. Note: classification as unarmed was fundamental error in TAM programming. System updated to recognize manufactured weapons as equivalent to biological weapons. On the galactic news networks, the story exploded. An unarmed species that wasn't really unarmed had just defeated 3 military forces. Commentators argued about what this meant. Some called it the biggest classification error in TAM history. Others wondered how many other species might have been misclassified. At the Galactic Concordance headquarters, Counselor prepared for her journey to Earth. She had been chosen as the official ambassador, partly because she had tried to warn everyone, and partly because her species, were known for their diplomatic skills. Her ship arrived in Earth's solar system 1 month after the final battle. The debris fields from 3 separate battles still floated in orbit, silent reminders of the cost of the TAM's mistake. Requested permission to approach, and was directed to dock at the Aegis 7 orbital station. When she stepped off her ship, she was greeted by a group of humans. She recognized some of them from the combat footage: Admiral Song, Doctor, Commander Park, and Captain Minu. There was also a man she didn't know, introduced as Head of Weapons Research. Counselor, Doctor said, extending her hand in the human greeting. Welcome to Earth. We received your messages warning us about We appreciate that you tried to help. Took the offered hand carefully. Humans had such soft skin, no scales or armor. It was still hard to believe these fragile-looking beings had defeated the Armada. I'm sorry I couldn't do more, said. The Council wouldn't listen until it was too late. So many lives were lost because of our system's failure. 4,312 lives, Admiral said quietly. That's how many died in the final battle. We also lost 678 of our own people across all 3 engagements. The number hung in the air. Felt the weight of it. Nearly 5,000 beings dead because a computer program couldn't understand the concept of manufactured weapons. I've come to formally apologize on behalf of the Galactic Concordance, said, and to invite Earth to join as a full member. We've also prepared reparations for the damages and losses you suffered. We'll accept the apology, said, and we're interested in joining the Concordance, but we don't want reparations. Was confused. You don't want compensation for what happened. We want something else, Admiral said. We want to make sure this never happens again, Not to us and not to any other species. They led to a conference room with a view of Earth below. The planet looked peaceful, beautiful, by the battles that had occurred in its orbit. Settled into a chair while the humans arranged themselves around the table. The problem, began, is that the TAM only measures biological weapons. It's been programmed that way for 10,000 years. But what happens the next time you encounter a species that manufactures weapons instead of evolving them? The TAM has been updated, said. The definition of armed now includes technological weapons. That's good, said, but it's not enough. The system also needs to understand that not all weapons look like weapons. Our ships can be converted to military use. Our factories can produce missiles. Our civilian infrastructure is designed to become defensive if needed. How do you classify that? Realize the depth of the problem. I don't know, she admitted. Most species separate their military from their civilian populations, but you're saying humans don't. We can't afford to, Admiral explained. We evolved on a planet with predators, diseases, natural disasters, and eventually each other. We learned to turn everything into a tool for survival. Every human city has hospitals that can become trauma centers. Every factory can be retooled for different products. Every civilian with engineering training can help design weapons if needed. It's not that we're all warriors. It's that we're all survivors. Captain Minu leaned forward. When I first registered Earth with the galactic systems, the clerk laughed at us. He thought we were helpless because we don't have claws or venom. But he didn't understand that humans have something else. We have the ability to look at any problem and create a solution. That's what makes you dangerous, said, understanding now. Not just your weapons, but your adaptability. Exactly, agreed. So here's what we propose. We'll join the concordance and share our defensive technology with species that need it. In exchange, we want to help redesign the TAM. We want to make sure it can recognize different types of threats and strengths. We want a system that's smart enough to understand that unarmed doesn't always mean harmless. Considered this. It was a bigger request than reparations, but it made sense. I'll need to bring this to the council, but I think they'll agree. After what happened, everyone wants to prevent another tragedy. There's one more thing, said. He pulled up a holographic display showing various devices. These are civilian applications of our military technology. This is a fusion drive that can power ships more efficiently. This is a medical nanobot that can heal injuries. This is a terraforming tool that can make dead planets habitable. We built weapons to defend ourselves, but we'd much rather build things that help people. Looked at the display with wonder. Each technology was revolutionary. You'd share all of this. We'd prefer to be known as engineers and explorers, Admiral said. Not as warriors. We fought because we had to, but that's not who we want to be. Over the next several hours, they discussed the details. Learned about human history, about their wars and their achievements, about how they had nearly destroyed themselves before learning to cooperate. She learned that humans had been dreaming about meeting aliens for centuries, but had never imagined it would start with a war. Finally, as prepared to return to her ship, Captain Minu walked with her to the docking bay. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "When the clerk at Bellows Prime told me we were classified as unarmed, I felt insulted, but now I understand that most species really do use their biological weapons to fight. How do they handle species that are different from them?" "Honestly," said, "we don't. Most species in the galaxy are similar enough that the TAM works for them, but you're right to be concerned. If the system couldn't understand humans, it might not understand other unique species either." "Then I'm glad we're going to fix it," Minu said. "Maybe some good can come from all this." 6 months later, Captain Minu stood on the bridge of the Infinite Dawn, now designated as Earth's first diplomatic vessel. In the cargo hold were the first human ambassadors heading to a dozen different worlds. In the engineering bay were plans for fusion drives and medical technology that Earth was sharing with the galaxy. Behind him, the planet Earth turned slowly in space. The debris from the battles had been cleared. The defense platforms remained, but they were silent now, not needed. Ahead of him, the stars beckoned. Thousands of worlds to visit, millions of beings to meet, endless possibilities to explore. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. The most dangerous species isn't the one born with weapons. It's the one that builds them and chooses when to use them. Minu smiled and gave the order to jump to faster-than-light speed. Humanity's real journey into the galaxy was finally beginning, not as victims or conquerors, but as partners. The infinite dawn jumped forward, carrying hope into the darkness between stars. Behind it, Earth stood ready, defended, determined, and most importantly, understood at last. The galaxy would never make the mistake of underestimating humanity again.